house with O'Con. Hey, O'Con in your house. Hollywood in your house. Hypocrisy's head in the clouds. Curating all kind of loud. Wrestling in front of the crowds. Paragon's holding it down. Anybody can get it. Come to us for your news and opinions. We got a voice. There is no choice. Wisdom voice in your house making wrestling noise. Moving fast just like cruiserweight action. Your house is a perfect distraction. Papa see your ears when you in traction. Get this work with some wrestling action. Slow.
What's up, guys? What's cracking? The Con Man in your house. We here. We're ready to make a movie. I hope you guys are ready to make a movie. I hope you guys are with the shits, because we're with the shits. And we're ready to talk a little wrestling. That is right. You guys already know the vibes. Anytime we slide on through, we're here to give you that work when it comes to professional wrestling. And that's always what we intend to do, as I'm here giving y'all that work once again on a Thursday. So, it's about the middle of the week. Usually I give it to you on Tuesday. I was a little busy this Tuesday. Had a lot of things moving, a lot of things going. But I wanted to make sure that I gave you guys some content. You guys out there in the household, of course, you guys follow us as we are live here on Facebook Live. We are live on X. We are live on YouTube. We're live on Twitch. You guys know the vibes by now. So we're giving you a little impromptu episode here. And usually I give you guys my solo shot and I talk Monday Night Raw and we kind of break things down and break that down. And then on Sunday, of course, we give you the old Sunday house party. And those are usually really fun with myself, the voice, Josh Joseph, Hypocrisy Jones, and the world's most dangerous podcaster, Paragon. And we have a great time getting together, talking some wrestling. But guys, this time here, I'm not doing a solo shot. When I do solo shots, I'm doing those by myself. That's just me. But I'm not doing it by myself. I was actually able to get a guest on the show, a guest that I've been wanting to get on here for a long time. We're in the same line of work here in the wrestling media when it comes to putting out top-notch podcasts, man. And this man right here, he's been out there grinding, getting some key interviews. And I remember when I first started podcasting and I was out there getting key interviews and just really, boom, hitting the ground running and getting people to come and check out what I'm doing through the interviews that I was having and I was able to acquire. And, I love to see it. I love to see other podcasters out there, especially in my local area, that's out there just really grinding. This guy's really out there grinding. And of course, that is the host of the Heated Shenanigans podcast, my friend, Scott Hulett. How's it going, bro?
Doing fantastic. It is an honor to finally get this set up.
Yes, man. Yes. It's great to finally get you on here, man, so I can get some of your thoughts and your perspectives and stuff. Like, I feel like that we've kind of crossed paths. We haven't got directly. It's just slightly askewed there, man. But now we're finally able to get together and I'm able to get you on and we can have a really good conversation, man. Some of the interviews that you've had have just been crazy. I mean, I got a chance to listen to a little bit of your latest one with Mandy Sachs. Of course, that's former NXT Women's Champion Mandy Rose. And man, there's just a lot of great listens, but also you've interviewed names such as Eric Rowan, Kurt Angle, Eric Bischoff, Vince Russo, Chris Van Vliet. I mean, all an incredible lineup of guests on your show, man. So we're going to talk a lot. I want to talk about some current events in wrestling. I want to pick your brain a little bit, but I want to ask you, first thing I want to ask you as a fellow podcast host, because we're going to talk about a lot, out of all those interviews that I just named off, is there any one that really sticks with you? Maybe a favorite one?
Man, that's a great question. It's weird to be on the opposite end of this, getting asked the questions.
Oh, I know.
So I'd been asked this once before, and when they asked me, I didn't have an answer, but now I have a much better perspective of it. And I would say the recent episode I did with Mandy Sachs, formerly known as Mandy Rose to a lot of WWE fans and wrestling fans in general, I attribute like Mandy was a big bucket list interview get because, again, she is a phenomenal talent, and I don't know, just when it comes to wrestling interviews, the higher you get up the chain there with the big names, the less room there is for error in your body of work, and the air feels a little thinner the higher you get up there. But Mandy was really a testament to how far we have come with this podcast. And again,
Mm-hmm.
I will never sit here and say this is all me, because it's not. It has never been just all me. There are so many people that go into making these episodes, so many tireless, hardworking hours for guys that do not get enough credit. Dustin Davidson, one of my key guys, Dre Baxter, Mike Bradley, who's also a phenomenal rap artist. Shout out to Mike, Chase Basket, Colin, Keaton. There's so many people that go into making this happen, and at no point is it ever just myself, and all the connections and being able to meet all the people through professional wrestling. But a long-winded answer, Mandy is probably the one that sticks out to me because it's really a benchmark to how far we have come.
Yeah, yeah, no, I could definitely see that. I mean, I just listed off a great name of names that I didn't even mention that you had a chance to even talk to Matt Cardona as well. So, a lot of great names that you talked. And I like what you said about really crediting your team. For me personally, like I started this podcast on my own, just me. And it was just a thing where I was like, I talk a lot of wrestling, and I was like, well, maybe I should put it on the airwaves, see what it was. Everything that happened to me in my career was not in the plans at all. I mean, it just all just happened. I was trying to start a podcast just to have fun, and then it just grew and grew, and then boom, I'm talking to names like Solo Sokoa. I'm talking to names like Austin Theory. I'm talking to names like Mr. Kennedy. I'm talking to names like Molly Holly. It's just crazy, some of the interviews that I've had. But I really like what you said as far as crediting your team, because we've grown a lot here In Your House, not through just myself, but with my team. Hypocrisy Jones, The Voice, Josh Joseph, the Emerge World Heavyweight Champion, Paragon, when he comes on and he grants his insight as a professional wrestler, an active professional wrestler, which I think is a great perspective in podcasting. When you have that, I listen to a lot of like basketball podcasts, and I listen to podcasts with like secondary type players, like role players, like Raja Bell or Austin Rivers, and I just think it's an interesting perspective from that end. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, you did a little wrestling yourself, didn't you?
I did, yes, for a few years. Unfortunately, I had a health condition pop up, which
Mm,
abruptly halted any of
yeah.
that. Wrestling's been something that I have been in love with since I was 2 years old. It is
Hmm.
the one constant I have had since I was a child in my life, that regardless of where I was at in life, professional wrestling was always there. And not being able to physically do it anymore, there are other aspects, other avenues to still be in professional wrestling and
Yeah.
contribute in good ways. And the podcast and everything that we have coming up with the podcast and the new ground we're going to be breaking in the near future it's again more testament to hard work, tireless hours, and again, a lot of times, like, you don't get the thank yous, you don't get the
Mhm.
uh hey man, great job. It goes without saying that you don't get any of that. But when you start to get to these points that you've worked for and sacrificed for, it is nice to look back and reflect on that. But I don't like to dwell on it because there's always so much more ahead of me. There's so much more to accomplish, to do. And it's the same as professional wrestling. You never stop learning. And when you stop learning, that's when you got to get out, because it's an endless cycle.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point, man. I really think that it's important to understand, like, there are, like you said, other avenues to be able to help professional wrestling. I do commentary at some shows. Some shows I'll be a manager. Other shows I'll do some backstage correspondence. And really getting in some different bags there just to keep myself relevant and keep myself booked and out there, man. As a podcaster, man, I really feel like there's a lot of different ways that we get looked at. There's a specific way that we are viewed that in some ways are not so positive, and that's really a testament to some podcasters that are out there that are just looking for headlines or looking for a little bit of 15 minutes of fame, looking to poke the bear some wrestlers on X or something like that, just to try to get a little bit of relevance. What I like about what you do is the way that you move, man, in podcasting and in the wrestling business is you do it the right way. I don't see you out there trying to get a headline. I see you out there just talking about wrestling, breaking it down, and giving your opinion on it. And then, giving, and then every now and then giving your listeners, a really big interview, which I think is a great mix, because you got to keep a mixed bag when it comes to podcasting, man. I don't think that if you do just one formula all the time, then your listeners are going to be like, all right, well, I like what Scott does, but I wish he would kind of try this, so I like what you do. But let me ask you this: what ways do you do? Do you have a formula, or do you just kind of be like, I want to do an interview, I want to talk about Monday Night Raw? What's your formula? Is there a formula?
Well, in our group chat that we have for the podcast, it is disorganized. It is chaotic. A lot. We have a little bit of an outline. Like, we know we're going to try to stream Raw and SmackDown if time and the internet cooperates. We plan interviews ahead of time. Sometimes interviews can't happen for whatever reason.
Yep.
But a lot of times we play it by ear. We try to give the people what they want, but also like what we also enjoy talking about. And the big thing that we get a lot is the tribalism in professional wrestling. They treat this, AEW and WWE, they treat this like it's Bloods versus Crips, and it's not that heavy.
Facts. I mean, it's true. It's so true.
Chris Van Vliet said it the best. It's like we're at a buffet and we're putting different food on our plate. We're both at the buffet because we're hungry. We want to eat. We're wrestling fans. At the end of the day, it's professional wrestling. Do you have to agree with what everybody does? No, of course not. You don't have to. You don't have to watch it. But to obliterate somebody for their belief in professional wrestling, guys, at the end of the day, we're fans of professional wrestling. If WWE, after all these years, can go out there and work with TNA, I think we can get along and have a civilized conversation.
Yeah. I don't know if it's a youth thing or if it's a maturity thing or if it's I don't have any other reality except for this thing, that you take it so seriously that you're like, I love AEW so much, or I love WWE so much, and I hate AEW, and it's like I'm just like, live and let live, man. Like, if you like AEW, that's great, that's amazing. Go and enjoy it. Enjoy what you enjoy. Support what you enjoy. If you like WWE, same thing. If you like TNA, if you like MLW, if you like NWA, but man, this weird going out of the way to just bash, to just make it this thing that it never even has to be, because I can guarantee you that the people in the back, the wrestlers in the back, the athletes in the back, they're cool, man. Like, everybody's cool for the most part. It's the fans. It's such a weird energy, man. So, like, you see it from that perspective as well, I guess. You kind of see, and I feel like guys like us kind of see it from like a bird's eye view, where it's like you're looking down at it and it's like you see just this utter chaos below you. But it's like, sometimes I forget, and I remember I've been there in my life too, when I was young. And this was everything in my life. You know, like there wasn't really like anything else that was like, you know, I was escaping reality, you know, and I was just pushing in it too much and, you know, not paying attention to other stuff. And so I get it, especially from a youth standpoint, man. But I'm with you, bro. The tribalism and stuff, it's not a good vibe.
Just enjoy it, guys. Like, and I'll be the first to tell you, I've worked with active TNA talent, active WWE talent, active AEW talent. They're not trash talking the other one. They're
No.
not. You know what they're talking about? They're talking about how happy they are. There's opportunities out there for everybody to get work. If you
Yeah.
Here's the thing. If AEW and TNA, for example, close shop this minute, WWE cannot house that many names. It is not feasible,
Yeah.
remotely possible. They would have to run every night of the week to accommodate that roster.
Yeah.
But now we have Ring of Honor, which is like AEW's developmental. You
Yeah.
have AEW, you have TNA, you have New Japan Pro Wrestling, you have a lot of strong top level professional wrestling independent companies like Pro Wrestling Revolver, run by Sammy Callahan. You have Emerge, you have Black Label Pro, you
Yeah.
have GCW. There are so many options out there. And to want one of those to go away, it's like a domino effect.
Yeah.
We need this
Yeah.
business to be healthy. We need it to thrive and to be successful. And the more companies that are successful, the better the business is.
I agree wholeheartedly. I mean, you that was just nothing but facts there, bro, because that's exactly how I see it. There's so much opportunities out there, you know, and it's so many different places that these talents can go. And I work with them at least twice a week. I'm at shows. I do commentary at Emerge. We just had our Emerging Stars tournament. That was amazing, a great show. But like I got a chance to talk to some of these young talents and actually pick their brains, and they're asking me like, "Oh, how was the match?" Because I got the best seat in the house as in commentary. And like it's just crazy, Scott, how like you see these young kids and then you give it like a year or two and then boom, they're off to like, you know, Wrestling Revolver. Boom, they're showing up on GCW graphics, you know, and then boom, oh, there's their AEW graphic. And it's like, for me, for my personal journey in professional wrestling, it's been a pleasure being close to that many talented people. And I've gotten to that point through podcasting to where I, you know, text with these people and talk to these people. And that's not a brag or anything like that. It's just facts, you know, and I'm happy with the corner that I've found for myself in professional wrestling. And I feel like with you, it's kind of the same thing. Like you're really grinding this podcast and doing great work. Honestly, you know, I always see you out and about anytime there's something big to be out there for, and you're, you know, getting interview. You're like, it seems like everywhere you go, you are you're gaining another connection. So what's that been like for you, man, as far as like gaining these connections, building the rapport with these talents and personalities? What's that journey been like for you?
Stressful. No, yes, yeah, it's been stressful. But when we started this, it was so small. We had no clue what we were doing. I'm not saying that we're on Chris Van Vliet's level or anything, but you have to start small. To have the idea that you're going to get into this and start immediately getting interviews with The Rock, Mick Foley, you're never going to make it.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you are related to them or you have some end to the WWE, you're going to have to work. You're going to have to build a body of work. You're going to have to work with a lot of. Let me take care of that.
You're good, man.
Let me pause that.
My man's out here burning stuff. He's burning things, y'all. Oh no. That's because this podcast is fire. Yeah, yeah. You see how your boy covered that up? Nice and smooth.
All right.
Podcast, podcast so hot that the doggone smoke detector's going off. There we go.
Freaking, I was wondering if it was going to do that because I hadn't done it yet. So it's a trip in it. But where were we? My apologies.
Oh no, it's all good, man. So we was talking about basically you getting these interviews. What's it been like for you, that journey?
Yeah. So, I mean, you have to start small. You have to build that body of work because people, it's so hard to have a podcast. And I'm sure you know this part, especially. A lot of these talents are afraid to come on podcasts because they think they're going to be part of this gotcha moment, and
Yep.
they're going to get played to be made to look like a fool. And you've got to go through, and you have got to create credibility.
Yep.
I started like it was a lot of like of the lower end guys, but I've worked up through trust and hard work and just being referred by other people. And again, hitting the Mandy Sachs level, Mandy Rose, formerly known as Kurt Angle. I will share a story about the Kurt Angle
Okay, go ahead, please.
one. One of my very best friends in this world, and one of the closest people in my life, and a big influence on what I've been doing, is a man by the name of Tony Vela out in Phoenix, Arizona. Runs the Phoenix Wrestling Guys store, and he is one of Kurt Angle's agents. When I got into this, I never offered or reached out and tried to cash in a favor to get Kurt early because we weren't ready.
Right.
Bro, like
Right.
we were not ready. We had to get there. And we finally got to a point where, and he sent me a text message one day and he's like, well, I'm going to be out in Pennsylvania. You feel like coming out and talking to Kurt about maybe being on the show? I mean, sure. So we drove out to Pennsylvania, and I got to work Kurt Angle's table at Steel City Con.
Oh, cool. All right.
And I sat and I had a very long conversation with Kurt. His wife is phenomenal. She scares the hell out of me. That's a very strong woman. That's a strong woman, but she's truly amazing person. Got to meet Kurt's kids.
That's cool.
They're phenomenal. They're
Was Jason Jordan there?
No, that wasn't his weekend with Dad.
Okay.
So, and Kurt gave me a lot of insight, and he really just laid out stuff in a different perspective, because that's the other important thing. There's so many different ways to look at professional wrestling, and so many different ways to intake professional wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
And it's finding your way to deliver that to an audience that's unique. We live in an age now, if somebody can afford a cell phone and they have Wi-Fi, they can have a professional wrestling podcast.
Yeah. Yep. It's really easy.
You got to stand out. You got to find that angle of how you're going to deliver your product to somebody. And again, you go around and you try to get these names. I will tell you, I will never have an ego about the talent I've had on this podcast, because all it takes is looking at my inbox and my sent messages on all the unread names I've sent emails out to. That will humble you real quick.
Oh man, felt so felt. Oh man. Yes, man. I totally understand. Many times I've been left on red or just not read at all. I mean, but you got to keep going at it, bro. Like you have to, like I'm a firm believer in that. Taking those losses make the wins feel better. And you take and losses, they suck, man. They do. But sometimes there's lessons in losses, bro. So like you just got to keep forging ahead and pushing. And it seems like that's what you're doing with the podcast, is pushing, getting a lot of great key guests and just keeping yourself busy, man. I feel like that somebody like Chris Van Vliet is like the blueprint for guys like us, man. So I want to ask a little bit about that one, and then I want to talk a little bit of Monday Night Raw and whatnot. was the Chris Van Vliet interview like? Because I listen to his podcast every now and again when I get a chance to, or if I'm like at the shoot or something like that. And he's vibey, man. Like I was like ready to go in and be like and hate this. I was ready to hate it. but I went in with the open mind and I was like, man, he speaks so eloquently. And I knew that about him, but I've never, because I'm like, oh, this guy gets the big interviews, but can he actually do a podcast by himself? Like, can he actually because as you probably know, doing an episode by yourself is work. Like it's tough. It's tougher than when you have people to bounce off of and whatnot. But I listened to him and I was like, man, no, he's a podcaster. Like he really is through and through a podcaster, man. So like, what was that like for you to interview him?
It was truly remarkable. And it's a funny story how it happened. The podcast had brought in Shane. Well, it's supposed to be Shane Francine and Bill Alfonso, but Shane had to take care of something. So we replaced him with Sandman. Yeah. And it was the day before the signing at Blizzard Brawl for Dave Hero, who has been. Dave is a tremendous human being. I love Dave Hero to death. I do just about anything for Dave Hero. And we were going to breakfast. I was actually supposed to meet SoCal Val for cocktails at 8 a.m. Well, Val wasn't there, so we walk in there, and my buddy Keaton is like, "That's Chris," and I'm like, "Well, you got to be a lot more specific. There's 1,000 Chris's." He's like, "That's Chris Van Vliet." So Chris is sitting over there eating eggs and sausage and drinking his water, and so they sat us behind him. So we sit down, and we agreed to pay for Chris's meal. So the lady had brought the check, or not the check, but went to pick up the dishes, and Chris asked about the check, and she pointed behind him, and he looked so genuinely happy and surprised and grateful. And Chris came over, we sat down, we talked, we exchanged information, and we set up Chris coming on my show. And getting Chris on there, he has such good, no pun intended, great insight for professional wrestling.
Yeah.
And he has such a just sincere and genuine feel to him when he is speaking. And look, this guy is out. While, yeah, he has the professional wrestling interviews, he's interviewing people 10 times larger than pro wrestlers. Or Jennifer Lopez.
Yeah.
He has had Brad Pitt. Like, it list goes on. But to think that he gave me the time of day to sit down and do an interview with me really meant something, because, again, he didn't have to. That was not a requirement at all for him. But he did it for whatever reason. I don't know if it's for paying for his breakfast. He was a cheap breakfast, so it wasn't that bad. But, it was one of those things that I was, again, not to play on words here, but I was grateful and very honored and humbled by the opportunity to have somebody the level of Chris Van Vliet on the podcast. And Chris and I have talked, and there's going to be in the future, there will be a round two.
Oh, awesome. That'd be great, man. It's just really cool because like this man is constantly like at the top of the charts as far as wrestling podcasts, like he's boxing with Undertaker right now. I feel like Teddy Long, he's gonna go 1-on-1 with the Undertaker. Like it's great to see like somebody on that level to actually give that type of interview, and it really speaks to the genuine person that he really seems to be. So that was real cool, man. That's really dope. It seems like you're doing a lot of fantastic things with your podcast. I'm loving seeing your journey from afar, man. It's really great stuff. But listen, man, it has been a week in wrestling, and these people out here, they usually hear me talk about Monday Night Raw. And I know that as a fellow podcaster, I can say that you've kept up with Monday Night Raw, I'm sure, and all the happenings. And man, I got to tell you, I'm not here to break down matches. Like, I don't really break down matches or anything like that. I just kind of talk about the happenings. But one thing that I wanted to kind of bring up to the household here is that match with Ludwig Kaiser versus Sheamus, and wow. That was a really, really good match where we got a chance to see, like some storytelling in there with, Ludwig Kaiser getting to show some of his viciousness and whatnot. But the big thing coming out of that was that Ludwig Kaiser beat Sheamus, picked up a victory over Sheamus, straight up clean. Injury, yeah, maybe. Knee injury, maybe, but still clean. What did that? How did that strike you when you saw that Ludwig Kaiser picked up a clean victory over somebody that likes of Sheamus?
I think again, WWE right now is in a lot of building for the future mode, and they're
Yeah.
looking to take the next Seth Rollins, the next Roman Reigns, etc. I have been very firm on this belief that Kaiser, if you go back and look, this man oozes and drips young Randy Orton vibes. I'm talking early evolution Randy Orton. Kaiser, he's got a good look. He can wrestle. He is arrogant. He looks possibly of the love child of William Regal and Alex Wright, but
But you're not wrong.
But I think eventually when they finally split Imperium, Kaiser, I feel, is going to be a megastar at some point because he reminds me so dang much of a young Randy Orton. I wasn't surprised at all that he beat Sheamus. I think his rise, it honestly would not surprise me if Kaiser won Money in the Bank if he's in it.
Ooh, okay. There's a conversation to be had there. Let's take it to Money in the Bank because Jey Uso is the first to declare for Money in the Bank. What did you think about that, man? Do you think he's got a shot? I know it's kind of early because he's the only one who's declared, but what are your thoughts on Jey Uso being the first to declare for the Money in the Bank briefcase match?
Well, it depends on how you want to look at it. Jey Uso, and there's a lot of possible red herrings here. Jey Uso wanting to use the Firefly entrance. He got permission, I believe, from JoJo to do that as tribute to the memory of Bray Wyatt. But is it a red herring? Is that going to be the first target of the Wyatt Six once they debut, once they come back? I don't know. When is the Money in the Bank? Have they announced it? Because if it's the June show that they're advertising the Wyatts for.
June is Clash at the Castle, and then July 6th is Money in the Bank, which I believe is in Canada.
Okay. I don't think Jay's winning Money in the Bank.
Okay.
The thing is, Jey Uso don't win main events. That's the problem.
But he's called main event Jey Uso.
Because he's wrestling in them. He ain't winning in them.
No, that's true. That's true. Look, he's got nothing from it.
But Jey is living proof that you don't have to go out and win every match to be over. Jey is going out. This man has a win-loss record that rivals the 0-16 Lions. But I'm telling you, Jey is so over with the crowd because he has a connection with him. The fans believe in Jey. But I do think that the Firefly thing is going to be maybe an omen, so to speak, for that being the first feud with the Wyatt Six is Jey Uso. There's been a lot of talk that it could be the Pride, since Bobby Lashley was like the last feud that Bray was involved with before his untimely passing. But I do not see Jey winning the Money in the Bank.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, we still have a lot of more participants to see if they come out. I mean, we've seen Jey on this journey here. His trajectory actually has been great. I mean, you're correct when you say he hasn't won anything, but man, he's definitely become such a fan favorite. And, it's crazy how he's been built over like the last 3 or 4 years to see what he's turned into. The story development has been crazy as far as everything that's going on with him and the bloodline and everything. And story development is something that I talk about a lot, that we talk about a lot here at In Your House. And, for the longest time, I want to talk a little bit about Liv Morgan. For the longest time, I was pretty critical of her. I like during her runs as the SmackDown Women's Champion, I felt like that she had the title, but there was something that still wasn't connecting. There wasn't like I felt like she's got a great look, that girl next door type look, and the wrestling is good. She's not a bad wrestler, not saying that. I just feel like the connection wasn't truly there yet. But man, I got to say, what she's doing now as the women's world champion and the seduction of Dominic Mysterio and everything that she's being just extremely petty. And she's doing things like putting out clips on her IG and tagging Dominic Mysterio and Rhea Ripley on there. And Rhea's just staying mum right now. But you got to think, man, with everything that they're developing right now, that time that Rhea Ripley does come back, it's going to be a massive explosion. What are you thinking about everything that you're seeing with Liv Morgan and her development as she is now growing into that women's championship?
I think Liv's on the cusp of being the probably the face of the women's division for Raw. And there's a couple good ways that this thing with Liv and Judgment Day could go. The one that I'm hoping for, and I think we have a good shot of getting it. There are two things left that Liv has not taken away from Rhea Ripley. Dominic Mysterio and her faction, Judgment Day. I think Dominic is the start of the end game for what Liv ultimately wants, and that is to take Rhea out of Judgment Day and be the leader of Judgment Day.
Oh, I like it. I like it.
I want you to think about this. How cool would this be? She finally, over the course of a couple weeks, months, I don't know how long Rhea is going to be out, but eventually Liv gets that spot. She overtakes Judgment Day as the leader. And the next week they're building up. They're going to have a big coronation to crown Liv the leader of Judgment Day. And that's where Rhea comes back. But that's the thing I hope they don't do. Do not announce Rhea's coming back.
No.
Because right before they do whatever sash or crown they put on her to be the leader of Judgment Day, Mommy's music hits and Mommy is power walking to the ring. Now you could do two things here. This could be something really cool. If Dom it was like a reverse rib, and Dom was in on it, but he was going to side with Rhea all along. That would be cool. And I think Dom would probably be one of the biggest baby faces in the company. Or you keep Dom heel and you make Rhea the biggest baby face in the situation. But a lot of people could stand to eat from this storyline and eat good.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of possibilities as far as the storyline goes. I really like what you said as far as Liv taking over the faction, because think about it. Is the Liv Morgan revenge tour truly over? Maybe she just wants everything. She wants to take everything. She took the shoulder. She took the title. She's trying to take her man. And now she's trying to take the whole thing. Honestly, that's a really great story.
I don't know if they're going to go that way, but it would be super cool because, again, that's the thing with greed, right? It's never enough. You've got the injury. You got the title. You got her man. The next step is the only thing she would have had left at that point is her faction.
Yeah. Yep. If you want to really do you really want to take everything? I mean, that's the thing. How petty is, and that's the beauty of what we're seeing with it. How far is Liv Morgan going to go? How petty is she going to be? How much does she want? And I really like the story there that we can see over the course of, because this could be leading possibly to, possibly Liv Morgan versus Rhea Ripley at SummerSlam. We already know that we're locked into Nia Jax being in a SummerSlam match, but because she's on SmackDown, it could possibly be Bayley. I think it's going to be Bayley, but we just got to see, because we still got a couple of months to go before we get there, and a couple of PLEs as well. One of them being Money in the Bank, and that really complicates things, and it's a completely different factor just thrown in there. But man, we're seeing great stories. I talk a little bit about great stories as far as what we're seeing with Liv Morgan. I want to go to another great story real quick, and man, that's what's going down with Chad Gable. This man, Scott, is he's trying to take the belt to Otis. He's abusing his academy. He's sending out poor Maxine to just sit up there and just shade every single member of the Alpha Academy. And he's not even there for it. Sami Zayn's being Sami Zayn and trying to be like, hey guys, come on, like you guys don't have to take this. You guys are better than this. Man, the development of Chad Gable has been just a beauty to see. What are you thinking about this storyline with Chad Gable and his character development?
I mean, if they don't sign him to a contract, it's going to be for nothing.
Man, that's true. I think it's up. Is it up this Friday?
I think it's up tomorrow.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But they're advertising him for other events, so I don't know. Perfect world, he resigns, he stays in WWE. This, I was not all for the whiny babyface Chad Gable. Like I couldn't do it for my children. This Chad Gable, man, this is next level stuff, and something I could see happening with this at Clash at the Castle. I think he's going to face Sami Zayn there.
Mm-hmm.
I think he will be unsuccessful because Alpha Academy will not help him win. That will be where they make the definitive turn and like, nope, we're done with the abuse, the disrespect, we're out. I think then you'll see the Creed brothers get introduced with Ivy Nile, and he'll just replace them with more obedient teammates. But the thing is, like, this going on with Sammy really takes me back to something I had seen John Cena say after Brock had beat The Undertaker's streak. And he said he didn't want to have a competitive match with Brock at SummerSlam because of what he just did to The Undertaker, and it would have crapped on the streak. He needed to squash John. Gunther is fresh off of having this historic title reign.
Yep.
And Sammy, by all accounts, Sammy got the short end of the stick. Like last year, you could have made an argument Sammy could have been the world champion. He was that.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. I remember that time.
But he gets the Intercontinental title, which after beating Gunther's historic reign, I kind of don't want Sammy to drop it so soon because I don't think they've done enough to make Sammy feel special for beating Gunther and what was arguably, I personally thought that was the best match of either night of WrestleMania was that match.
That was my match of the night when we talked about it a few months ago on the show. Yeah, that was my match of the night.
I think if they play the game of building Chad and Creed brothers and Ivy Nile together as a more diabolical heel team, then maybe take the belt off of Sammy. But man, Montreal, there's talks that Sammy might be in Money in the Bank and he might drop the Intercontinental title to go after the heavyweight title. The WWE right now, there's so many guys that could be world champion.
Yeah. It's an embarrassment of riches over there, bro. I mean, just an absolute embarrassment of riches. You have somebody like Sami Zayn, who of course is the Intercontinental champion. But I want to go back real quick to what you were saying, because you said something that I knew about it, but I forgot. Man, I just got to say, Gable actually does have a lot of leverage right now with his contract coming up. He has a whole lot of leverage. I'm not saying that he's going to walk. I don't think that he will, but I'm saying that he has leverage, so we can definitely see him, more prominently featured, and we can definitely see him with the Creed brothers and Ivy Nile, something I've been talking about a lot on this show for the past few weeks. And it definitely has that team angle type feel. But on the flip side of things, I got to ask you, man, did you see or hear that pop that Otis got when he stood up to Gable? That was a hell of a pop.
And the thing is, like, this isn't the first time the fans have really gotten behind Otis either. Like,
Yeah.
the Mandy Rose storyline, they were all behind him then. Now, like, they're just itching for that man to punch Chad in his mouth.
So good. It's so good.
When he puts hands on Chad Gable, that is going to be comparable to the pop Sammy got when he hit Roman at the Royal Rumble.
Oh, yes. Yeah. It was so good. Like I went back and watched it, man, because because in that moment when I was watching it, I was like, damn, that was a hell of a pop. And then I went back and watched it and I was like, that was a hell of a pop. Like, so I was like, what do you think as far as Otis and his potential as a babyface? How far do you think Otis can go once he is fully babyface? Because we know he's getting there. He's not feeling good about stuff that he's doing for Gable, so his conscience is eventually going to get to him. He's going to turn, and the fans is going to be behind him. But we've seen some great things that Otis has done. What do you think his ceiling is on this particular run? I know it's early to tell, but what do you think?
Well, unfortunately for Otis, he is on Raw, which is like Babyface USA. Because let's look at the competition. Eventually, CM Punk's coming back.
Yeah.
You got Jey Uso. You have Sammy. You have a lot of top level baby faces on Monday Night Raw. So it is going to be very hard to stand out. And we haven't seen, like, I think with the Netflix deal, WWE is going to look a lot different. I think they're still playing with some stuff to kind of see what they're eventually going to go more long-term goal oriented. Because they're going to have to deliver goods for Netflix because of that deal and all that entails, which is why I was shocked Cody didn't go to Raw in the draft.
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised about that too. But I mean, there's still time between now and then. But I mean, you got to think, and I'll even bring this up just real quick, and then we'll get back to talking about Otis. The beauty of the Netflix deal is that it starts in January, and that's when it's going to be hitting the ground running for, the road to WrestleMania. So they're actually starting this deal at a good time because that's when TV is going to be at its hottest. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, 100%. And the thing with Otis, like, I think he could be a very good Intercontinental Champion. I don't know if he's going to get over enough to get pushed into that main event territory for the title. Because here's the other thing. I mentioned all those names. I didn't even mention Seth Rollins.
Oh, my gosh.
Raw is so loaded with baby faces. Like, and I'm talking huge, mega baby faces. It's going to be hard for Otis to break through that because, again, as you said, an embarrassment of riches that WWE has.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I like what Otis does, and I like what he brings to the table. I even mentioned, I mean, it was just one of my solo shots where I talked about trading in, the current Alpha Academy for the Creed brothers and Ivy Nile, and I was like, so then what's next for Otis and Tozawa and Maxine, and this was around the time a few months ago when they made a couple appearances on NXT. And I was like, so maybe they just kind of break them off into a group on NXT, or maybe Maxine just stays on NXT and kind of develops a little bit more in ring. She's starting to develop a little bit, but I think there's still some, the cement's still wet a little bit on her, and, it's just a lot of different things that you can do. But then this happened, this whole storyline happened, and it's like, man, maybe you give Otis a little bit of shine. Maybe we give Maxine a little bit of shine. There's a lot of things that's going on right now in many different facets of the WWE, man. Shoot, I mean, we just had Jordynne Grace show up and have a match on NXT, man, and now she's going to be wrestling at Battleground against Roxanne Perez for the NXT Women's Championship, man. Like, so this TNA thing, man, and I've noticed little things that TNA is doing, and I want your thoughts on this. So they farmed out Jordynne Grace to NXT. Great move, key move. I've noticed that they have like a offer code for their app to get half off of their app. And then they just announced that their weekly shows are now going to be available on their app. They weren't available before. Now they're available. What is TNA's trying to make a play here? It seems like, man. What are you thinking about those pieces I just put together for you?
Well, there are two things. One, Clash at the Castle is where?
That is it in Scotland?
Scotland, huh? How cool would it be if Joe Hendry popped up?
Yes, please.
I don't care how you have to write it. Give me Joe Hendry and LA Knight in the same ring. That's all I want.
I didn't even know that's something I didn't even know I wanted. Okay. Man, I love me some Joe Hendry. We said his name, but he hasn't appeared. Dang, I could really use a guest like that. But this collaboration is crazy, man. You got any more thoughts?
We're going to drop an episode about this on the podcast tomorrow, but I'll give a little preview here.
Okay.
I feel WWE has the chance to fix one of the biggest booking blunders in their history, and that is an invasion. If you could get the pieces to line up again, the thing that made the WCW invasion possible is the company was out of business. There was no threat in building another brand up.
Yeah.
If you could take the egos out of it, there's enough talent on TNA. And if you really want to deliver and give some good fan service, you send AJ Styles home.
I like it.
You have AJ Styles captain. Imagine this. What if we got Survivor Series and it is Team TNA versus Team WWE in War Games?
Good Lord.
You could have Team TNA. It could be 5-on-5. It is captained by AJ Styles. Don't forget, Drew McIntyre was from TNA at one point, as was LA Knight.
Yep.
Bobby Lashley.
Mm-hmm.
Your current Universal Undisputed Champion Cody Rhodes spent some time down in TNA. They're going to flip Cody. That's not going to happen. But if your team was AJ, Drew McIntyre, Drew gets mad at WWE and decides to defect, that would pop a number for TNA. So it's Styles, Drew, Ziggler, Moose, and Macklin for Team TNA. Team WWE, you could do Cody, Randy, Roman, Punk, Rollins. You could think, again, it isn't going to be the star power of what WCW and WWE would have been at the prime.
No.
But you could still make a crap load of money hand over fist doing an invasion angle.
Absolutely. I like that. I like how you think, because we actually talked about this past Sunday, myself and the voice, Josh Joseph, and I had a lot of the names that you threw in there. TNA guys, current TNA guys. I had a lot of those names in there, like Namath, and Moose, but I also added like Josh Alexander in there. And then I also added a former WWE guy that's now a champion on TNA, and that's Mustafa Ali. I would put him in the angle too. Now, would you do a NXT invasion? Would they invade NXT, or would you have them do a main show?
I think it really depends on how many viewers and money that it makes. I selfishly want to see Josh Alexander and Chad Gable. Selfishly.
Ooh. Oh my God.
Give me that for 15 solid minutes of happiness. But I think if they started it in NXT, because I get this is probably like a test thing, because everything gets tested before it goes to the main roster.
Yeah.
If this were to blow up and it was moved to the main roster, maybe they overtake NXT. Maybe that's something that they could do. They come in, they overwhelm NXT. I think the big thing comes down to if Jordan Grace beats Roxanne.
That's going to be big.
We are in a different regime, a different era of professional wrestling right now. But I do want to say there's a lot of people, this is the first time. It's not like Vince did this with ECW. Like he gave them this opportunity, very similar. But he never had ECW go out and beat one of their champions on their programming. That never happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if it does, and I think they feel strongly enough about Jordan Grace, and they're confident enough, this could be dollar signs. Unbelievable. Yeah. And again, another matchup we could get when she's healthy. Imagine Jordan Grace versus Rhea Ripley.
My God. My God. There's so many possibilities, man. So many possibilities. I'm loving the collaboration that we're seeing with TNA. I think that it's great for wrestling, man. I think Battleground is going to be absolutely great. I'm going to check it out. Then I'll probably talk about it sometime next week on the show. But man, I got to get you out of here. This has been a great, great episode, man. I really enjoyed us just being able to pick each other's brains and finally get a chance to talk, podcaster, wrestling personality to wrestling personality, and just catch your vibe. You know what I'm saying, bro? Because I think I've said this to you before. My man, OG Tony, you come in just as we're about to go out, man. Just as we're about to go out. Grace has open challenge at Against All Odds on June 14th. No, that's going to be that should be dope. There. Who knows what's going to happen there? I mean, if she's going to have an open challenge, who's going to come in and challenge her? We can talk about that on a future episode. I actually got the TNA app, so I'm actually going to sit down and watch it tonight and see what the fuss is all about, because I want to see it. So I use that code. I'm excited that they're going to be able to. I'll be able to check it out tonight and get my first look at what this new TNA is looking like. But you, man, Scott, I really appreciate your time coming in, making this a really great episode. You're easy talk, man. I knew you would be because you're a fellow podcaster like me. But, man, I like the way that you break down wrestling and think about it and look at it. I can tell that you've wrestled because you have the mindset of a wrestler and you look at it in that way. But also I can see that you look at it bigger than that too. And I think that you could, I would say that you could test that to your skills in podcasting, and obviously your interpersonal skills and being able. I mean, I would have never thought to buy Chris Van Vliet breakfast. Like that's all it took. Like, like that's it. but
you ain't gonna miss a hotel breakfast anywhere now, are you?
No, not at all. It's great stuff, man. But man, as a great guest and you coming and blessing my podcast, I always love to give my guests an opportunity to plug anything that they want to plug. So, if you got some great episodes coming up, some appearances coming up, where can they catch the Heated Shenanigans podcast and everything that you're doing?
Well, I am glad for the opportunity. And again, outside of catching us on YouTube, Heated Shenanigans podcast on YouTube, you can catch all of our episodes there. Recent one with former WWE wrestler Mandy Sachs, formerly known as Mandy Rose. We have a lot of upcoming appearances that unfortunately I can't give out yet because, again, like there's still some things. I'm really big on letting the owner or the promoter of whatever the event we're attending make that announcement. That's theirs to get the credit for. We're just supplying the talent. But something that I can talk about, and I did bring a visual aid, and that is...
Ooh, oh, yes.
Yes. Saturday, June 29th, Lafayette, Indiana, at the Tippecanoe County Fairgrounds, Heated Shenanigans podcast proudly presents Every Child Wins, a benefit show for the Muscular Dystrophy Association and Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation, headlined by the Four Pillars of Extreme, the Sandman, the franchise Shane Douglas, the Queen of Extreme Francine, and the one true manager of champions, Bill Alfonso, with 6 of the biggest matches you are ever going to find in an independent wrestling company anywhere across the world. with the main event for the Wrestle Nerds Internet Domain Championship. Eric Dillinger versus Sage Phillips versus the champion Josh Crane. For the first time ever, these three men are going to be facing off in a triple threat. And we've also got loser gets a face tattoo between Ari Alexander and Missa Kate. Definitely don't want to check that out. You're going to not want to miss that. We've also got Trey Lamar versus Don't Die Miles. We have making their Lafayette, Indiana debut, David Ali, Heather Monroe versus Laney Luck and GPA in a mixed tag team match. We've also got Brett Havoc versus Trevor Outlaw. And honestly, one of the biggest matches that could main event anywhere in the United States. Main event tested, battle tested, deathmatch jackass, Dale Patrick faces Mr. International Jake Omen, one-on-one, only at Every Child Wins. And guys, like, again, tickets are on sale now. VIP tickets are just about sold out. So if you want to cash in on that, definitely hit me up on Facebook, or my phone number is on the flyer on the Facebook page for Every Child Wins. Tickets start as low as $10. It is family friendly. We do have food, drinks, many great sponsors from Myers, Tier 1 Games, Big League Sports Bar, Evil Genius Tattoo, Infinity Toy Store. We've been blessed to work with so many amazing people on this to make this happen. And there's going to be no better place to be than, again, Saturday, June 29th, Lafayette, Indiana, guys.
That card is insane. That is an insane card. My God, such great, amazing talent that wrestles across this Midwest. Jake Omen and Dale Patricks, what? What? I was tripping over Don't Die Miles and Trey Lamar. That was gonna be crazy. That main event, the title match is gonna be nuts. My God.
You should have seen the stress I'm going through trying to place who's wrestling where.
Yeah, I could only imagine.
Josh 6 Crane, matches.
Eric Dillinger and Sage Phillips. What? That's nuts. That's an incredible card, man. That is such an incredible card. Oh my God, guys, go check that out. And in the cause that it's for, just makes it that much better. I mean, what are you guys doing? Go check out that show, Every Child Wins. Man, I just want to thank you one more time for coming on, making this a really, really great episode, man. We need to do this again, bro. We have got to get together and do this again.
I've got to get you on my show. I've got to get you to meet the guys. Colin, I'm telling you, Mike and you would hit it off tremendously. Mike is one of the greatest. He's been a joy to have working. I love all the guys.
Yeah,
but man, Mike has just this personality about him, this way with words. Chase is funny as heck too. I don't tell him that because I don't want his head to get bigger. But I love Chase too, and Dre and Colin, Keaton, Dustin. Again, if I could just end this on, it's never going to be just about one person when you're trying to be successful in this world. You do need a team, and you're only as good as your team. And selfishly, I think I've got the best team, and I would stand by these guys against anything. And what's coming up is going to be major. We have some significantly, I can't go into too much about it, but I'm telling you,
that's fine.
When it happens, there's going to be some heads that get turned.
Ooh, okay. All right, household. You guys just watch out. Hold on to your seats now and check out what my man has got going on. Yes, man, we're going to definitely do this. We're going to bring you in sometime on a Sunday house party, have you in with some of my guys, and we're going to have a great conversation, man. It's going to be great. Guys, as for me, you guys already know where you can catch me at. That's here, doing this podcast in your house. But guys, the next time that you guys are going to be able to see me out and about doing my thing, it's going to be on July 3rd, and that's Emerge 80 as they are presenting fireworks and fisticuffs. It's going to be our July 4th show, really big. It's going to be a great event. I can't say too much yet. Only thing I do know is that it's going to be the return of the world's most dangerous game, the Emerge World Heavyweight Champion Paragon. I got more information coming, but I gotta keep it close to my chest, y'all. I gotta keep it right here. But you guys are going to soon know. But guys, you already know you can catch me here doing this Sunday house parties. Tuesday, you guys know that I give you my solo shot on Monday Night Raw. And me and the guys get together and give you guys that work and give you guys that energy. So you guys can catch me at Alicon Howse. And that is on IG, that's on X, that's on Facebook. And then you guys can follow this podcast. That's the In Your House Wrestling Podcast on Facebook. And then also it is In Your House Pod. That's In Your House Pod. And that is HOWSE. And the W stands for work. So, guys, really appreciate my guest coming through one more time. Thank you to Scott Hulett of the Heated Shenanigans podcast, for the voice, Josh Joseph, for Hypocrisy Jones, for the world's most dangerous podcaster, Paragon. I am Alicon, the Concept House, here to remind you guys to tell a friend, to tell a friend, to tell a friend, to hop on this bandwagon, get on or get gone, because the household is still going mighty strong. You guys have a great day and a great rest of your week. Peace.